Hello, I will talk about chess. Chess is an abstract strategic game and a sport designed for two players. It is one of the most common and complex games existing in human culture. Estimates of the number of legal states in chess range from 10 to the power of 43 to 10 to the power of 120. The game is accepted worldwide as both a hobby and a competitive sport. A person who plays chess professionally is called a chess player. Victory in the game is achieved when one of the kings is threatened in chess by one of the opponent's pieces and cannot eat the threatening piece, and also he cannot block the threat with another piece, or he also cannot escape from the threat to a square where it will not be threatened. So if you threaten your opponent's king, to threaten your opponent's kings, it means actually that you can eat the king in the next move. In this situation, your opponent must remove the threat either by moving his queen to another square that is not threatened on that square, or he can choose to block the threat with another piece, or he can eat the threatening piece. That is the only three options that your opponent has. So that situation is called chess. So you threaten your opponent with chess. Okay? And if in that situation your opponent cannot do anything at all, he cannot choose one of those three options, because he cannot move his king to another square, because in any square that he will move his king, it will be threatened. Or he also cannot eat the tool that threatens his king, and he also cannot block the threatened line. In this situation, you are the winner of the game. Okay? Now I will talk about basic concepts in chess. the chessboard is divided into 64 squares with 8 rows numbered from 1 to 8. So you have 8 rows. This is row number 1, row number 2, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and row number 8. And 8 columns marked with the letters A to H. So you have also 8 columns. This is column A, column B, column C, D, E, F, G, and column H. So we should place the board so the rightmost square in the row closest to each player is white. So the closest row to me is of course the first row, and the rightmost square in the first row is of course the white square. Okay. Now I will talk about the arrangement of the tools. We should place the tools on the board in the row closest to each player from outside to inside. First of all, I will place the rooks. Those are the rooks. I will place them on the outermost squares in the row. Then I will place the knights. Those are the knights. We'll place them here. Then the bishops. Those are the bishops. We'll place them here. Then in column D, I will place the queen. This is the queen. I will place the queen in column D. And in column E, I will place the king. This is the king. I will place him in column E. In the second row on each side, the second row is this is the second row, and for the black is actually the 7th row. Okay, we will place the pawns for the entire width of the row. On all 8 squares, we will place the pawns. Those are the pawns. We'll place them on along all the squares of the second row for the white, and along the squares of the 7th row for the black side. Okay, so that is the opening position of the game. Okay, now I will talk about the characteristics of the tools, and we will start to talk about the most important tool on the board, and the most important tool on the board is the king. This is the king. He is the most important tool on the board. He can move in any direction, straight or diagonal, one square in each direction. So the king can move one square in each direction. So he can move here, 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 and here. So in total, in this position, he can move to 8 different squares. So usually the king moves only one square, except for the castling. The castling is something that you do in order to protect the king. The short castling is something like that, and so in this position, as you can see, the king moved 2 squares from E1 to G1, and the white can also do the long castling, and then this move, actually the king moved 2 squares from E1 to C1. So when the king is in a chess position, that is in a position where the opponent can hit him in the next turn, the threatened player must change this position, either by moving the king or by blocking the attack line of the threatening piece, or by beating the threatening piece. So the first rule in chess is that when your king is threatened by the opponent's tool, you have only 3 possibilities. Either you can beat the threatening tool, or you can move the king to other square that is not threatened on that square, or you also have the option to block the threatening line. Okay, those are the only 3 options that you have when your king is threatened. What is the meaning of threatened? To threaten a king is actually when you threaten your opponent's king, the meaning of it that is in the next turn you can beat the king. You can eat the king. So in this situation it's called chess. And in this situation your opponent must do one of the three options that I have already mentioned. To eat the threatening piece, or to block the line of the attack, or to move your king to a square that is not threatened on that square. In order to win the game, the player must reach a position where his opponent cannot rescue his king from the threat of chess. He cannot eat the threatening piece. He also cannot block the threat with his own piece. So the other side actually cannot rescue his king in any way that he tries. The state is called mat. So if you threaten your opponent's king and your opponent cannot eat the threatening tool, and he also cannot block the threatening line, and he also cannot move his king to another square that it is not threatened, then you will be the winner of the game. This position is called mat. Despite its value as the most important tool, the king's movement is relatively limited. Unlike the other tools, it is not possible to evaluate the king with points for changing tools, because the king is not a tool that can be given up. So the second rule in chess that it is that you cannot give up your king. You can give up any other tool, but not your king. But in terms of its value, in the sense of the balance of forces and its tactical abilities in the game, it is estimated at 2.5 points. Because the king has limited range offensive ability, as I've already told you, he can move only one slot in each direction. This ability is manifested mainly in advanced stages of the game, when there are not many tools left on the board. So that is to say, his strength is manifested, the king's strength is manifested in the end of the game. On the same scale, the rook is valued at 5 points. This is the rook that is valued at 5 points. The knight valued, this is the knight that it's valued at 3 points. And the bishop is also valued at 3 points. Okay, so we finished to talk about the king. The next tool that I will talk about is the queen. This is the queen. The queen is the most powerful tool on the board. Its advantage is in the flexibility of its movement, since it can move in any straight line, column, row, or diagonal, and as many squares as it wants in the same row or diagonal. So in this position, the queen is on the square that its name is E4, and from E4 it can move to any square in the main diagonal that starts from H1 and ends at A8, and he also can move in any squares in the diagonal, in this diagonal that starts from P1 and ends in H7. And he also can move in any squares in the column E. Can move backwards or forward in any square in column E, and he also can move in any square to any square in column 4, in row number 4. Can move in any square in row number 4. It is customary to estimate the queen at about 9 points. Okay? Finished to talk about the queen. The next tool that I will talk about it is the rook. This is the rook. The rook can only move along the columns or rows. So it can move to any square in column E, and he also can move to any square in row number 4. Okay? The rooks are usually more effective when they support each other and work as a pair. A special role was assigned to the rook in the protection of the king during the castling. So, as I have already told you, you can do the short castling, or you also can do the long castling. It is customary to estimate the rook at about 5 points. Okay? So the next tool that I talk about it is the bishop. This is the bishop. The bishop can only move diagonally. So as you can see, the bishop is on square e4 and it can move on the to any square in the diagonal that starts from edge 1 and ends in A8. Okay, and it also can move in any square in the diagonal that starts from B1 and ends in edge 7. Okay, the bishop is the only tool that is limited to one slot color and cannot switch to the other color. So, as I have already showed you, there are two bishops on the board in the beginning of the game. This bishop can move only on the white squares. He cannot switch. He never moves on the brown squares. While that bishop can move only on the brown squares. He cannot switch to white squares. The two existing bishops together cover both colors of the board. So in the event that one bishop is lost, part of the control over the board is lost. It is usually estimated at about 3 points. But with the development of modern chess engines, it has been proven that its value in the relative majority of the positions is estimated at 3.25. That is subject to dispute. There is also a slight advantage to the player who has two bishops against a knight and a bishop, or against two knights. So the side that has two bishops has advantage on the side who has a bishop and knight, or two bishops, or two knights. Okay, the side that has two bishops has advantage on the side that has two knights. So the next tool that I will talk about is the knight. The knight has a special movement that combines straight and diagonal movement. Alternatively, its movement can be described as the letter L rotated in different directions. So you can describe the movement of the tool as the letter L. The knight can move 2 squares down and 1 square to the right side like this, or 2 squares down and 1 square to the left side like this. Or he also can move 2 squares up and 1 square to the right side like this. Or he moves 2 squares up and 1 square to the left side like this. Or he can move 2 squares to the right side and 1 square to down, 1 square down like this, or 2 squares to the right side and 1 square up like this. Or he can move 2 squares left and 1 square up, or 2 squares left and 1 square down. His advantage is that tools don't block his movement and he can jump over them. So if you have pawns here, you can jump over the pawn and go here, or you also can go here. Okay, the knight is especially effective in close situations and in the execution of a fork that is a threat to several tools at the same time. So I will explain you what is fork. This is a fork situation. This is a fork situation because the knight threatens to eat the rook, and at the same time he threatens to eat the queen. Okay? You can actually create a situation that the knight threatens on 8 tools at the same time. In this situation, the white knight threatens to eat all the black tools that on the board. He threatens to eat that knight, he threatens to eat the black rook, he threatens to eat the pawn, he threatens to eat the knight, he threatens also to eat the black rook, he threatens to eat the queen, he threatens to eat this bishop, and also he threatens to eat this bishop. The knight is usually estimated at about 3 points and slightly less than the bishop. As I have already told you, the bishop is estimated at about 3.25, so the bishop is slightly stronger than the knight. Okay? So the next and the last tool that I will talk about it is the pawn. This is the pawn. Pawn is the last in the hierarchy and the most limited in its movement. Also known as soldier. The pawn can only move one square at a time and only in one direction. That is the forward direction. Forward, that is to say, the opposite direction to the side of the board where it starts. Okay, so the forward direction for the white is this is the forward direction, and while for the black side the forward direction is the opposite direction. So you can deduce from the sentence that the pawns can move only forward, that actually it will be stuck when the square in front of it is occupied by another piece. So in this situation, actually the white cannot move to any square because the square that is supposed to move to it is occupied by the black pawn. The h4 square is occupied by the black pawn, and also the f4 square is occupied by the black's pawn. And also you can say the opposite thing, that the black also cannot move because the squares that they could move to them is actually occupied by the white pawn. Okay? During the first move of the pawn, and only during this, it can move 2 squares forward or 1 square according to the player's will. So during the first move, the white pawns are in the second row, while the black pawns are in the 7th row. So only during that time, only when they are either in the 2nd row for the white or the 7th row for the black, the pawns can move 2 squares forward. Like this. Okay? The way pawn beats is different from his usual way of moving. By moving 1 square diagonally only in the direction of his progress. Okay, so in this situation, the white can beat the black pawn like this. Or he also can beat the black pawn like this, diagonally 1 square forward. And if it is the black's turn, then actually he can do the same thing. He can beat the white pawn like this, diagonally 1 square, or like this. Okay, and also in this situation, the white can beat the rooks, the black's rook, by doing this step. Okay, despite being a weak tool due to its limited movement, pawn have an advantage over the other pieces. If it reaches the last row of the board, it becomes any other piece except for the king of the same color. According to the player's choice. So, if it is white's turn, and white do this move, so he arrived to the 8th row on the board, he can replace the pawn with any other tool except of the king. You can replace it by queen, or you can replace it by rook, or by knight, or by bishop. And if it is white's turn in this position, and he actually moves here, then he can replace that pawn with another queen or other tool except for king. So theoretically you can have 9 white queens on the board. Okay, so this situation is called crowning. And the same thing also of course the black can do when he moves to the first row. He can replace the black pawn with other tool. Okay, it is customary to estimate the pawn in 1 point. A special move of the pawn is en passant. En passant is a special method of capturing in chess that occurs when a pawn captures horizontally adjacent opponent's pawn that has just made an initial 2 square advance. The capturing pawn moves to the square that the opponent pawn passed over, as if the opponent pawn had advanced only 1 square. So in this situation, if the white moves with his pawn 2 squares, then the black side has the right to eat that pawn like this. This situation is called en passant, or so whenever the white side moves 2 squares with his pawn, and you have in the 4th row black pawns, that black pawn can eat the white pawn that has just moved 2 squares forward. So the black pawn can eat him like this. The rule ensures that the pawn cannot use its 2 square move to safely skip past an opponent pawn. Okay, so that's all. Thank you very much.